hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
It's an honor to be able to speak to you. Because you do speak English and you are one of the Mexican warriors in the game, it puts you in a unique position. And for me to be able to get this interview, it's almost impossible for someone in my position who speaks very little Spanish to get a chance to speak to one of the guys who represents the country that's been putting it on the map for boxing as a whole in the last 20, 30 years. So thank you for taking this time with me, Mr. Valdez.
No, and I appreciate it. And also, you can tell when somebody knows their stuff about boxing, and you're one of them. So that's why I feel comfortable talking to someone like you, because there's a lot of people in the sport who don't really know what they're talking about, don't know the facts about boxing and maybe even the history. Well, that's something that you do very well.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Valdez. I've been obsessed with this sport as a kid, and I've been reading the books nonstop since I was a kid. And it wasn't until TikTok came out that I finally just started to vlog about boxing, and it just kind of built up a life in and of itself. I have my own job as an engineer, but I've been boxing since I was young. I never competed because when I was young, I was kind of stupid and misguided. I went to jail a few times, but I'm still around the gyms and I'm still deep in the amateur scene out here in San Diego with a lot of the local people. And yeah, it comes in handy when you're doing boxing analysis. And definitely I have a lot of respect for fighters. And I think a lot of content creators really miss the mark on that. They're so desperate for clout that they don't bother to keep it objective and unbiased and add value into the niche.
Yeah, it's very important because sometimes analysis and people don't understand what the boxers go through. Most of these fighters, most of us, will go through a hard time in training camp, working very hard. And then you go to a fight, maybe the fight doesn't go as planned. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you get knocked out, sometimes you win. And it's very easy to point fingers. It's very easy to criticize a fighter who's not in his, maybe the fighter wasn't his best day, and it's very easy to criticize. But I appreciate everyone who always admires or at least appreciates the fighter who steps in the ring and always gives it their best.
Definitely, Mr. Valdez. Now, I don't want to spend too much time going into the origin story, but I love to tell the fighter stories, and I want to paint as full a picture as I can of you with the limited time I have with you right now. You clearly speak really, really good English, and many people, surprisingly enough, in my comment sections, when I released the clip of the Mark Kriegel interview, that was the first time a lot of fans on this side knew you spoke fluent English. So just really quickly, if you could elaborate, were you born down south? Were you born here? Were you raised in Phoenix? Or what was the time period there? Because you're clearly fluent in both languages.
Yes. So I did my elementary school in Tucson, Arizona. So I was born in Nogales when we were just a baby. My father and my mother went to Tucson, Arizona. And I did my whole elementary school in Tucson, which helped me a lot with my English, as a young kid. The best way to learn is when you're young. So that's how it happened. My father and my mother ended up divorcing, and me being attached to my father, I've always been very close to him. I ended up moving back with him to Nogales, and then from Nogales I went to Hermosillo, and then from there, I did most of my career back in Mexico City. But I've always, but never stopped practicing. So I guess when you learn from a young age, you just keep it.
So you spent your teenage years and stuff down south in Mexico, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Nice, nice. Okay, so when did you actually start boxing, Mr. Valdez? I hope I'm not going too far back, but
no,
when did you start? Yeah, when did you start boxing?
I started fighting when I was, I went to the gym for the first time with my father when I was 8 years old. And then from there, I had my first amateur fight when I was 9 years old. And the good thing about, being able to cross both sides was that I would train in Nogales, and I would travel to Tucson, and then from Phoenix, and then from Yuma, and then travel all over the place, all over the USA and Mexico to fight. My father was always with me. So ever since I was 9 years old, I started fighting amateur fights, and yeah, that's how pretty much it started.
How many amateur fights did you have over the length of your amateur career?
I passed over 200 fights. Back in those days, it was very common to fight every week. I don't know how the amateur fights are happening nowadays, but back when I was a kid, there was fights every weekend. Every weekend there was fights in Phoenix, there was fighting in Yuma, there was in Prescott, and in California, especially here in the state of California, we would travel a lot to come over here. There was times where my dad would travel all the way from Nogales, we would drive all the way to Kansas City for the ringside tournament. So we would travel. My father definitely put a lot of time. He invested a lot of time in me. He did a great job as a father, as a trainer, as a best friend. He's the reason why I'm here right now, sitting as a world champion. And the reason was because as a little kid, we would travel everywhere, so I could just have that one little smoker fight that helped me become who I am right now.
Nice, nice. I'm glad to hear that your father was involved in your childhood growing up. Mine wasn't, and I really wish he was. It makes a big difference as far as your compass when you become an adult. And I think a lot of people weren't aware of your deep amateur pedigree. I was looking at the amateur record, and you beat names like Oshaki Foster, Carlos Cuadras. You even got wins over Maxim Dadashev, rest in peace, and went to the Olympics twice. And what was that like going to the Olympics? And when did Mexico decide to start focusing on the amateur program down south? Because I know for a while it wasn't a priority.
See, the fact that you mentioned those names, it just brings me it confirms that you know your stuff. You know, the guys you just mentioned, you know, those are great amateur fighters. And there was a lot more amateur fighters who I fought. You know, I fought Vasily Lomachenko, Asad, from Armenia, who just won yesterday, did a great job. I fought him as well as an amateur, and I fought the Uzbekistan gold medalist in tournament down in Guadalajara. So I had a great amateur background, and I'm pretty much the only Mexican two-time Olympian there is. The reason why I choose to stay as amateur because my dream was always to become a gold medalist. You know, I wanted to accomplish something that, you know, not very often boxers get to achieve, you know, and ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to become an Olympic gold medalist. And for that, I had to stay an amateur. It was very common in as a Mexican fighter to turn pro at 15, 16 years old, 17 years old. And I never thought about it. I never thought about the money. What I was thinking about was my legacy, my goal, my dream was to become an Olympic champion. So that's why I stick for the first Olympics, which was in 2008, Beijing 2008. And it didn't go well. It didn't go so well. I lost my first fight against the gold medalist from Mongolia. But that only made me more hungrier to try to go for the next Olympics. But it was very hard because, you know, as an already Olympian, you're 17 years old, which is me, and I already had promotional offers by big companies like Top Rank and Golden Boy, and the fact that I don't want to see the professional, I don't want to see the offers as far as money wise. I just choose my goal, my dream. So that made me choose to stay 4 more years in the Comité Olímpico in Mexico City, which is something not very easy. It's very hard. It's a military lifestyle back over there in the Comité Olímpico. But without a doubt, it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. That's where I met my trainer that just passed away, the Olympic coach, Professor Bonilla. He taught me a lot of things inside the ring and outside the ring. And those 4 or 5 years that I did in the Comité Olímpico helped me become the disciplined fighter that I am, because it's a military lifestyle that we have over there. And just I stayed for an Olympics. We almost got the chance to get the medal. It was a very close fight against a fighter from Ireland, John Joe Nevins. I will never forget that fight. Never forget that name. And I didn't get the medal. It broke my heart. The world fell on top of me because I dedicated pretty much 4 to 5 years of my life that could have been as a professional. Maybe I could have fought at 122, from 119 to 122 to 126. And I chose to become an Olympian. I chose to try to go for the Olympics. I didn't get the medal, and that broke my heart. It broke me down. But a lot of times, you just gotta, sacudirte, like we say, get up and try to accomplish your dream. I didn't accomplish my dream to get the Olympic gold medal, but I accomplished my dream to become a world champion as a professional.
Nice. Well, we're glad that we got a chance to witness that as a professional. We definitely know you as fans as a fighter with extraordinary amounts of grit. So we know you to take the licks and roll with the punches and keep moving forward. And that's, I think, one of the most endearing qualities that you have that fans most treasure you as a fighter for. You mentioned Professor Bonilla. When did you make the transition to, Manny Robles? Was that when you first went pro?
No, I've had many trainers throughout my career, and each one of them has taught me great lessons inside the ring and also outside the ring. You know, I first turned pro with the guy from Mexico City. His name was Jimenez, Professor Jimenez. That didn't work out because he didn't have a visa, so we had to go to the United States. And at the time, he's still my manager, Frank Espinosa. He put me with a great trainer at the time, which is Clemente Medina. At that time he will also train. He also had fighters like Edwin Valero. He had Ponce de Leon, and he also trained Carlos Molina and Abner Mares was his big fighters. So my manager having the relationship with Clemente, he put me with Clemente Medina, and we worked for like about a year and a half, almost 2 years. Then it wasn't really working out, so we ended up moving it to a trainer, which is Manny Robles, which was one of the best decisions that we ever made, because me and Manny Robles, we just clicked. We clicked together. He's a great human being, a great trainer, a great, everything. I'm very close to also his family, and from there on, he's the one who helped me become a world champion at 126 pounds.
Nice. You guys, so it was, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were all in the same stable together. It was you, Andy Ruiz, Jesse Magdaleno, all together training under Manny Robles?
It was a time where, yes, we were all together, where it was Jesse Magdaleno, you had Michael Collin, Andy Ruiz, Joselito Velasquez, you had Abel Ramos, who else? I'm probably missing Rafa Espinosa, who's an upcoming fighter from Guadalajara. He had a Brazilian fighter, Everton Lopez. He had like a solid 10 good fighters that were with him at the time.
You mentioned Michael Conlon. Did you see that fight with Lee Wood and Michael Conlon?
Of course I seen it. Of course it was.
What did you think about that fight?
Well, it was crazy to see. It was crazy to see that he almost had the world championship in the bag. I was up in the scorecards, and I personally know Conlon as a person, as a fighter. I know that what he's capable of, and it was kind of sad to see him the way it ended. But props to the other guy who did an excellent job. They're both fighters. At the end of the day, always let the best man win. But I felt a little bit sad. Not a little bit. I felt Collins' dream almost accomplished, and he was so close and it got away. So hopefully there's a rematch, and then again, let the best man win.
Yeah, I've been a Mick Conlon fan since the infamous middle finger incident at the Olympics. I was like, I like this guy. I like that he switch hits, southpaw to orthodox. He's a technician, but it just looked like he ran out of gas. And Lee Wood is one of those live dogs. You got to make Lee Woods unconscious for him to stop fighting. It was an amazing fight. We've seen you in fights like that before, Oscar. We've seen you.
People. That's the most recognized fights of my career was definitely. I would think one of them was when I got my jaw broken in 2018 against Scott Quigg. And
definitely want to talk about that fight, because I think for the average American fan, like I remember watching the Genesis Cervania fight was my first start, but for most average American boxing fans, their big exposure to Oscar Valdez was that fight against Scott Quigg, and that infamous picture of you in the ambulance smiling with blood just coming out of your mouth. Like, what was that like when your jaw broke? Like, did you even feel it?
Oh, I felt it. I felt it right away. I didn't know where it was broken. I was picturing it was broken from right here. All I felt was my jaw hanging. And for some crazy reason, I thought I could have located it back. Like when you dislocate your shoulder and you put it back together. For some crazy reason, I thought I could put it back together. And that was impossible because it was broken from right here in two spots. And I felt it, I was trying to put it back together. And I took it round by round. I remember going back to the corner scared and saying, I can't lose. I don't care what happens. I didn't know if I should stop the fight, if my trainer, Manny Robles, is going to stop the fight, is my father, who's right next to me, going to stop the fight, or is the referee going to stop the fight? But while I was thinking of, while I was processing that all this was going to happen, there's going around, and I know I had my jaw broken, the 10 seconds go, And it's all right. The thinking's over. What do I do? What do I do? And just go fight again. So I went to the sixth round. I did okay. Every time I would get hit, it would hurt. It would hurt, but then it would go away because of adrenaline. But every single punch, which there was a lot of punches, just kept on increasing. So I came back after the sixth round and I said, okay, I can do this. Just take it round by round. Don't think about the 8th, 10th, 11th round, just round by round. And little by little, I started getting close to the end of the rounds. I mean, knowing that I was up in the scorecards, but it was still a hard fight because you had Scott Quigg, who was a bigger fighter at the time, just pressing his body with me and just making it tired. And it was a very exhausting fight and also a painful fight. I believe in the 10th round, I tried to hug him so we can clinch a little bit, get a little bit of breathing. And he puts his hands on my head, him not knowing that he broke my jaw already, and tries to push me away. He breaks it a little bit more. I heard 2 cracks more. And you can see in videos, my jaw is completely dislocated, looking from one side. And that's how we took it. The 10th round, 11th round, 12th round, it was good, great fights. And I was just so happy that the fight was over because I knew I had won. It was my second title defense. And I was just so happy. I wanted to go back home and celebrate with my family, not knowing what was going to happen after that, which was, for me, was the most difficult thing. Not the fight, but the aftermath of the fight was really when I went through hell, because I was so happy that the fact that I was considered a warrior now. From there on, I graduated as a Mexican warrior, and that's something I always dreamed as a little kid. I grew up watching fighters like Eric Morales, like Marco Antonio Barrera, and I always wanted to be a warrior like them. I wanted to be considered one. And there was always that, oh yeah, but he's not tested yet. Oscar Valdez not tested yet. Well, that fight is where a lot of people started recognizing me as a world-class fighter, warrior, and all those good comments. But they just brought a lot of happiness to me. So I was just extremely happy that I had finally just graduated for the Mexican fans, which they're very hard to satisfy because we're used to seeing great wars like the fighters I just mentioned, Marco Antonio Barrera and Eric Morales.
Yeah, it's definitely, as an outsider looking in, I'm Filipino. So as an outsider spectator watching the kind of cultural expectations that the Mexican people place on their warriors, it's almost like there is no credit given unless they get that pound of flesh from you. And it's mind-boggling. And it's a beautiful thing because the entertainment that we get as fans is something. Sometimes fighters from other countries, the US, even across the pond in Britain, they're not really willing to go through the hellfire just to give the fans what it is we pay for. And you get it in the respect and the reverence that you get from the fans. Guys like you, guys like Gabe Rosado, who isn't a champion, but they're known warriors, and people are going to watch no matter what, just because we know that we're going to get a person giving their all inside that ring. Do you feel that it's an unfair pressure, or is it just like, oh, that's life. I'm a Mexican fighter, and I have to give this debt to my people for them to accept me?
Well, it's not. What I say it's not pressure at all. On the contrary, it's motivating, and it's also, it just shows that nothing in life is easy, because of course we all want to be warriors. We all want to be considered warriors. We all want to be considered greats in our area. In my case, in my sport, but it's not easy to accomplish. It's not easy to become a world champion. But when you do it, and then you get the recognition from people applaud and tell you you did great, and people tell you the simple fact that, hey, campeón, eres un guerrero, you're a warrior, that just brings, that sometimes pays more than actual money as well. So you feel like you did something that a lot of people are not willing to do. So it's very important for us, but it's more than pressure for me. It's motivating. It's motivating that every single effort that we're putting in the gym, every sweat, every leaving your heart inside the gym, will always pay off at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It is, legacy is, in my opinion, bigger than the championship belts, which add to your legacy, and bigger than the money that you make. It is the feeling that you give to those fans that give us that brief escape from reality when we're watching that fight. Those memories, there's so many champions in boxing, but very few of them will give you those fights that you will never forget exactly how you felt. Those fans of us that watch that Scott Quigg fight or that watch the Berchelt fight are always going to forever remember, like, yo, Oscar Valdez was easily one of the most action-packed fighters of this current generation. And I don't think there's going to be much blowback or much pushback on saying in a comment like that, because we've been following as fans for years and just spectators of the sport of boxing. And they know that when it comes to Oscar Valdez, you're going to get some action. You're going to get some action.
We try, as like I said before, I grew up watching these fighters that I just mentioned, and obviously Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti and Chico Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo. Were all great fights that they're not a lot. You have a lot of fights, but there are very few fights where people consider there were real legitimate wars. And I grew up watching these fighters, and I always try to, in the same way, imitate them. I remember being in school and instead of paying attention in class, I would daydream that I would become a world champion. I would practice my signature because I said one day I'm gonna be very famous and I have to get autographs. And one day I'm gonna give interviews and I'm gonna be taking pictures with fans. And I would draw myself Oscar Valdez, WBC world champion, and always manifest it. Always call it out. And thank God I'm so blessed that I am now a world champion. And I grew up watching these fighters, so that's the reason why I always try to in a way imitate them, because I could also box. I could. My amateur background has helped me to become also a fighter who can use his jab, use his distance, work his legs. But most of the times I choose to fight what the fans want to see, which is a brawl. They want to see blood. They want to see a great fight. And I love the fact every time I get a chance with a fighter who's willing to go to toe-to-toe, willing to go to just stand there, not just stand there and take shots, and that'd be pretty stupid, but I'm saying to stand there and try to give the fans what they want, which is good fights.
All right, we got Marco Antonio Barrera from Mexico City. We got Eric Morales, Zona Norte, two legends. What were your favorite fights with those two fighters?
Well, they're both my idols, but when those two were fighting, I was an Eddie Morales fan. I've always been open about it. But it's funny to see when I got the chance to meet both of them. As a fighter, I always wanted to be like Eddie Morales, but as a person, I want to be someone like Marco Antonio Barrera. He's a great human being, very respectful, very humble guy, and I never thought I would get the chance to interact with him the way I do and have contact with him, have his cell phone, and every now and then send messages and stuff. But I love Eddie Morales. My favorite Eddie Morales fight would have to be when he beat Pacquiao the first time. He outclassed him beautifully, outboxing him with the same pressure and just being a smart fighter. And Marco Antonio Barrera, I would have to say with Prince Hamed. Prince Hamed, it's a legendary fight. Anybody who loves boxing, I would say has to see that fight or definitely saw that fight. So those two had a great legacy, and they're my motivation. They're my motivation as far as I want to inspire generations and kids the same way. Those two people, those two fighters, those two warriors inspired me, Oscar Valdez.
Nice. I will never forget when Eric Morales went southpaw in that last round against Manny Pacquiao. I was yelling at the TV. I was like, this is bonkers. He's like, let's do this.
I bet you were a Manny Pacquiao fan.
Of course I was a Pacquiao fan. Man, you understand, I was like the token chinito that grew up in the barrio. So I was always at the carne asadas with the homies, surrounded by my Mexican friends. So I was always talking about pressure. I was always talking that Mexicutioner nonsense. We stopped using that word for Manny. But when he did that, I was screaming, this is, oh my gosh. It almost,
I think we were all screaming right there. I was, what are you doing? Muévete, you crazy. But he did a great job. And that's something like you said, those are days where I would never forget. I would never forget the day that he fought Manny Pacquiao, or the times that he fought. We'll forget that Eddie Morales, one of the few that has had several trilogies. I believe it's two trilogies, Barrera and also with Pacquiao, and they were all great fights.
You gotta love those warriors. So I'm gonna switch back to the discussion after you broke your jaw with Scott Quigg for changing direction. Was it that fight with Scott Quigg and breaking your jaw that made you decide that maybe you had to make a trainer change with Manny Robles, who you still have, you still hold in high regards, but was that the fight that kind of triggered the thought that maybe you should try something different?
Well, I'm gonna be as honest as possible, as most honest as possible. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to, because I love my trainer, Manny Royce, and I love him to this day. He's my, like I said, he's the reason why I became a world champion in 126, and I'll forever will always be grateful with Manny Robles. I just love that guy as a human being, as a trainer, as everything. And Top Brain got together with my managers and my father, and they said we need a change. We've been seeing wars through wars through wars, and if you want to last in boxing, you got to have a change. And I was stubborn. I said, no, papa, no manager, no, I don't care who tells me. I'm not gonna leave Manny Royce, because they had said this several fights before the Scott Quigg. And when the Scott Quigg fight happened, they were like convinced that either you move or you move from another trainer, because you need to start learning. And I never doubted I could have stopped continuing learning from Manny, but once my father had a real talk with me, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot for you, for my father only, because my father is the one person who's been with me since day one, obviously since the day I was born, but then he's the first person who put the gloves on, and I expect him to be the last one to put the gloves on with me when the day that it's time to hang them up. I want him to take the gloves off and him hang them up. So my father's one person who I will always respect his decisions, and I want to follow. And when my father had a conversation with me, I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So they've offered me several trainers, and I said, no, and I said, one who I think I will connect will be Eddie Reynoso. And at the time, Eddie Reynoso didn't have no trainers, no fighters but Canelo. So my manager calls him, and then I was surprised to hear that he wanted to train me. So I was like, wow, Eddie Reynoso wants to train me. And I was a little worried. I was a little scared at first, because he has a big fish. And I consider myself a little fish in sport. And then maybe he's not going to have enough time for me, because he has Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing. But he showed me the complete opposite. Forever will be grateful with Eddie Reynoso for giving me the time that I need to continue learning the boxing. He pays the same price as the fighter does, as far as putting in the time, putting in the effort. And for me, one of the biggest things is sacrifice. You got to sacrifice something. You gotta be disciplined in one area. And for me, it's not easy leaving my family back home in Sonora. It's not easy staying in a diet. It's not easy. A lot of things that for me is kind of considered sacrifice. Of course, I want to be with my kids' birthdays. Of course, I want to be enjoying with them. But if I got to be here, away from my family, in another country, to accomplish my dreams and to give them a better life, and so be it. But also the trainers do that too, and I feel a lot of fighters make that mistake as far as not giving the credit to the trainers than what they deserve. Eddie Reynoso, we've passed New Year's together, Christmas, his birthday, my birthday, his daughter's birthdays, and that for me is very, very, very something that I will always be grateful for, because he also puts in the time and that sacrifice in the gym with us.
Nice. Well, it clearly has worked out. You've added different nuances and got some different skill sets added to your repertoire after that Scott Quigg fight. I want to say, after you first joined Eddie Reynoso, you had a couple of fights afterwards where there were certain, chats in comment sections and online where people said, Oscar's hesitant to pull the trigger, or he's lost that pit bull edge to him. And I think that's understandable. When you're going to a new training, you got to, accommodate to a whole different style of fighting. And Eddie Reynoso's system is its own intricate type of thing going. Did you see those kind of comments online that people thought maybe Oscar had lost his edge? Like, you had the fight with Tomasson, and then you get to the Adam Blue Nose Lopez fight. And how did you feel? How did it make you feel to hear that critics were having doubts about whether or not we still had the same Oscar Valdez under Eddie Reynoso?
It was deeper than that, because there was quite a lot of question of if I was going to be the same, because I'm with another trainer. And the trainer was something, but also the fact that I had my jaw broken. People were already counting me out that I would never be the same. The Eddie Reynoso was not a good decision for me. There was just a lot of those type of comments, which is okay. Everyone has their opinions, but I've never actually really paid attention to the comments, because I believe in myself. I refuse to believe that I will not be the same because I got my jaw broken. I refuse to believe that I won't be a better fighter if I go to another trainer like Eddie Reynoso. I refuse to believe all those negative things. I concentrate on what I can focus and what I can control in my area. And that's how I've been my whole career. So I did listen to some of those comments, and but it is hard to make a change or make it something where people can see the growth in the fighter. My fight with Tomasoni, and then from there was
There was a Velez.
no, it was Jason Valdez. No, Jason Sanchez,
Yeah.
and then it was Blue Nose Lopez. And what people just don't get the facts as far as I did change the trainer, but also I had just come from a broken jaw with which I had my mouth shut for 2 months. So I lost a lot of weight, I lost a lot of muscle. So it was very hard to regenerate that muscle tissue back working. And so that was also a factor as far as getting back in shape, because I couldn't work out because I had my mouth shut. Changing to a new trainer, which that was a big change as well, and actually performing in a high level fights, high class fights. So I think those were all factors, but I just never really paid attention to where people's comments. 'Cause at the end of the day, they're just comments. They're just people's opinions. Like I said before, what I can control right here in my area in the gym and working hard and getting my best effort. That's what I was always trying to control. So I did see a little bit of little transactions getting better little by little, but it wasn't what I was expecting at first, because it takes a while for you to make a real connection with your trainer. And Eddie Reynoso told me that. He said you might not look better in your first fight, might not even your second, but maybe your third, fourth, you're gonna start seeing the evolution that we're working out. And I think we all saw that.
Definitely. We saw it culminate in that Miguel Berchelt fight. And there were so many people doubting you going into that Berchelt fight, but I had seen the incremental improvements each fight under Eddie Reynoso, and I was like, he's gonna put it together here in the Berchelt fight. What was your mindset going into that Berchelt fight? Because you had vacated your straps. Berchelt had defended his belt like 9 times.
Yeah, it was that fight, man. That night, nobody would have beat me. That fight, that night was I just felt good. I felt it was my time to shine. It was my time to execute the work that we were doing. Me and Eddie Reynoso and my whole team I was just so focused on accomplishing my dream to become a WBC world champion. I was already a champion, 126, the WBO, but there was something about that green belt. When I was a kid, I saw, like I said before, I seen Marco Antonio Barrera having Morales, Chavez, Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, all these great champions that have that belt. It's a very historical belt. So the fact that I was already that 8-year-old kid, the 8-year-old kid in my heart, was getting a chance to fight for that world championship was just full of energy. And we did exactly what we worked in the gym, and we executed perfectly how we were supposed to do it. And we got the job done. I couldn't believe the fact that now I could be named a WBC world champion. And it was literally a dream come true. It was literally, I couldn't believe it. The fact that going back home with my belt.
It was a beautiful thing to see on the screen. I think the casual fan saw the crazy knockout. And I think those of us who have more technical understanding saw you walking backwards, slipping back, and then doing a check hook going backwards, which is flabbergastingly difficult. That was just poetry in motion, Oscar. It was that's a mastery of craft right there. And it was a beautiful thing to see the emotion. You could tell that you were in the moment. You had somehow slayed the giant beast that was Alacran, and put a lot of doubters, back into their little hiding places, because there was a lot of critics out there. But I was like, I'm telling you, Oscar got this guy's number.
Yeah, I mean, 2021 was a year of learning experiences. I learned a lot from 2021 because it started off good, and then it turned out very bad for me. And you learn from those mistakes. There was times where I was asking myself, why is it happening like this? But I think we're here in life to learn from everything, every little single aspect. As far as you're up, maybe you're gonna have to come down. But when you're down, you can go up as well. So yeah, my I could say that was my one of my best performance. But then that same year I had not my best performance. I would say maybe my worst performance that I've ever had in my career as a fighter against Brazilian fighter Conceição. Um, you learn from that. That just has turned me into a different fighter right now, different mindset, and I'm just very focused right now on the main goal right now, which is we all know the guy who we're fighting, Shakur Stevenson.
Now, I got a question about the Berchelt thing real quick. This might be an urban myth. I don't know if it's true or not, but word on the streets, my coach Joe told me this. He said that before, you guys had turned pro, you had some closed door gym wars involving you and Miguel Berchelt. Is there any truth to this?
No, I'll tell you exactly how it is. I'll tell you the truth. Me and Berchelt have had a rivalry for ever since we're in the amateurs. The first time that I saw Miguel Berchelt was in 2010 in the Nationals. I didn't participate in that national because I was out in an Olympic tournament in Puerto Rico. It was the Olympic Festival, it was called. So when I got back, there was already the national championships, and Miguel Berchelt won. He got the gold medal. So I was looking at him and said, okay, that's the guy that I'm gonna have to eliminate myself to continue being the number one in Mexico to go to Olympics. That never happened for some reason. He never went to the Comité Olímpico. He said he went, which I was proud. I lived there for 5 years, and that's how it all started. He claimed several times in interviews that he never got the chance to go to Olympics because they favored me, and that's how it all started. We ended up meeting each other as far as in person, and we clicked as we had a great bond as friendship. We me and him, we repeat to ourselves. We're gonna end up fighting. And we would just shake hands, and he would tell me, hey, te voy a ganar, and I would tell him, no, yo te voy a ganar. We would just joke around back and forth. And that's how it happened. One time, we just talking about we're going to fight. One thing led to another in our careers. And one day we just signed the contract that we're going to end up fighting. And that friendship when we signed the contract, that went out the window. Until we fought, and then, after the fight, then we became, again, we're still friends. I wish them nothing but the best.
Nice. So you get through the Berchelt thing, and you mentioned this up and down thing, and then you get to the Robeson Conceição fight. I saw you winning that. A lot of people, anytime there's a close decision, people are all over the place with their opinions and stuff. The Robeson Conceição fight, he is a highly moving kind of boxer type of guy that, stays in an orthodox position, but moves around a lot. And it was a difficult fight for you. What do you suppose made the fight so tricky for you? And what did you learn from that fight?
Sorry. Okay, it kind of froze a little bit. Yeah, a lot of things. Well, the main thing that I would say in that fight was that I didn't feel myself in that fight. We're human beings, and we make mistakes, and I made the mistake as far as paying attention to criticism as far as boxing experts and fans and people just pointing the finger that the fact that you're a cheater, that will call me, and it will break my heart just knowing that I've never cheated in my life. The whole thing of coming positive off this substance that it doesn't help you in no way or form as far as hitting harder or being faster, or it's not a performance enhancing drug, if you will. It just broke me down. It crushed my heart. It crushed my heart seeing people criticize you, pointing the finger, and taking the credit, discrediting your accomplishments was really broke my heart. And I did sincerely say that I should have never paid attention to people or to the boxing experts, if you will call them like that. And the day of the fight, it was just another me. I didn't felt that I was paying attention to other things, and I still think it was a close fight. Obviously, I think I won the fight because I just do it. Like you said before, people sometimes see a close fight and sometimes they're used to seeing wars, and if you don't give them that, they immediately assume the other guy won the fight.
Robeson, the thing about Robeson is he stopped fighting in the second half of the fight. I don't know. It's 12 rounds. And I saw somebody stop fighting about halfway through the fight. He just danced evasively. And you got to fight all 12 rounds. It doesn't stop just because, yeah.
And it's respectable for people's opinions. I respect everyone's opinions. If someone thought things something different, it's okay. But I'm very focused, and that fight has helped me who I am right now as far as the way I'm training, because we know Shakur Stevenson is not going to be the fighter who's going to stay in there. He's not going to. We can't expect a war with someone like Shakur Stevenson, who's even a better technical fighter than someone like Conceição. So I'm very focused now on forget about what anybody thinks. It's just my trainer, myself, and my team are very focused on the main object is to become a unified world champion. And I'm giving it my best. I'm giving it my best as far as training physically strong, but also mentally strong for this fight. And like I said, 2021 was a year of learning experience. I learned a lot from not believing everything when you were up here, because it's like in the movies, Campeón, and a lot of people come with the packages, and you don't know their maybe their best intentions, and then when you're down, a lot of those people go away, and there's a lot of who I thought were friends as far as boxing friends, pointed the finger right away and called me a cheater without seeing the full facts of what had came out positive, and that really broke me down. But that just shows to me that not everybody who says is with you is really with you, and the fact that I shouldn't be worried about what do other people think. If I believe in myself and everybody works hard and puts in the effort, anything can happen. So right now I'm just focused on the main object, which is a tough fight, but nothing's impossible in life when you work hard and you push for your dreams.
Absolutely. You are getting geared up for the most difficult fight of your career against Shakur Stevenson. On paper, it looks like it's going to be the most difficult fight of your career. And you answered the question I was going to ask. How you feeling physically? How you feeling mentally, Oscar?
I'm feeling great. You know, camp is always well. For me, my family members, my close friends, they always tell me, hey, you got to work harder for this fight. You just got to train a little bit harder for this fight. Which for me is, I always think to myself, is physically not possible. I always train hard for all the fights physically. But for this fight, I'm training just as hard as physically as I do for all the camps. But I'm training mentally for this fight as well. You know, Shakur Stevenson likes to get in your head and likes to get on people's head and likes to talk sometimes and likes to, make the fights complicated so he can win the fights. But we're training physically and mentally for this fight. So camp has gone very well. And I'm just excited right now to try to accomplish another title in my career.
Well, I can say this, you definitely inspire people. I definitely know you inspire me at the least. When I see your lives or I see your IG stories, I'm just a gym rat. I've been boxing since I was young, and I run a lot too. So sometimes I'm not motivated. I'll turn on my IG stories and Oscar's running again, and I got to get up and I got to go run, because if Oscar's running, was he running in San Diego? Oh, I got to run. I got to run, but yeah, you just got to compartmentalize it, take it all out, because the head games are going to come along with it. This is warfare. So any and all tricks and craft that can be used to try to break you down are going to be used. But you're definitely one of the hardest working people I've ever seen on any of these platforms. As far as following the fighters, there aren't many that work as hard as you do, Oscar.
And what's crazy is that I do get that a lot. Not from people. I get that from coaches, and it's something that I appreciate a lot when they tell me you're working hard, good stuff, And when I hear the trainers say that, it's kind of crazy for me, because I would expect everybody to train this way. I expect any fighter, because you're training for a fight, an actual fight, where it could get scary if you run out of condition, if you run out of brave air and you're exhausted, you're tired, you still got 4 more rounds to go. It's scary. For me, it's motivating, training hard. I know what I do. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. I just enjoy being in the gym. Like you said, I'm also a gym rat. I pretty much almost live in the gym. As far as when I'm in training camp, I go to the gym, train, come back, sleep, eat, go back, train again, come back, and just back and forth in the gym. That's camp life for me. Don't really do much else but that.
That's what it takes. It takes talent and definitely probably more work ethic than talent. You got to have the talent to become a champion, which you clearly have, but without the work ethic, you have nothing. You have nothing. So you're training in camp right now for Shakur Stevenson, and some of your sparring partners are actually some personal friends of mine that train at my gym, Habib Chalet and Austin Brooks. And what's that like working with those young men? And do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, they're great fighters. Austin Brooks is a very technical, great fighter. I'm surprised that he doesn't have a promotional company behind him because he's a great technical fighter. I got two sparring partners right now who are great fighters, which is Austin Brooks and also Gio La Roca. He's from Florida, from Orlando, and they have great. They got great styles, very slick. They move around. And they've been helping me a lot for this fight. They've been helping me out. Like I said, I look at Austin Brooks. He's a great fighter. He's a great fighter. And what I like about it the most is that they're so hungry that they also go on that level, high world class level sparring, and they're so hungry for success that they see you on that same level and they push the same level as one needs to become a world champion. And yeah, they've been helping me out very good, very, very good. And I couldn't ask for better sparring than what I have right now.
Nice. So looking at your opponent, Shakur Stevenson, without giving up your game plan, because clearly you can't do that, what do you see in Shakur Stevenson that is the kinks in the armor that would make this a winnable fight for you?
Shakur Stevenson, he's a great fighter. He's fast. He's reached very well, and uses his ring IQ very well. But every fighter out there is beatable, including myself, including, I would say, even Floyd Mayweather was beatable. In many's opinion, he lost against Jose Luis Castillo. Many's opinions, he maybe lost to De La Hoya. Maybe, there's a lot of opinions. So that just shows that every fighter out there is beatable. No one's unstoppable. No one's untouchable. And everybody makes mistakes. In the fights, everybody makes mistakes. So a fighter like Shakur Stevenson, you gotta just go in his level as far as ring IQ, be the smarter fighter, and put smart pressure on him. There's ways of putting pressure. You don't have to go in there with your hands up, just come straight forward to receive all shots. There's ways of cutting in the ring, digging to the body, looking for those invites, and when he clearly makes a mistake, try to counterpunch him. And there's a lot of ways, but in general, I would say be the smarter fighter, because a lot of people see the other fights that I have and they think I'm just a brawler inside the ring, but also I can box as well. So in my opinion is whoever the smarter fighter, whoever wins that chess game, because it won't be a war, it will be considered a chess game in that fight, will win the fight.
Exactly. Every fighter is beatable, Oscar. Shakur, it all depends on who shows up with good game plan that day. It could work out like Barrera against McKinney or Morales against Junior Jones. It could work out like Mayweather versus Corrales, like it all depends on who can implement their strategy on the day of the fight. And I give you just as good a shot as anybody, just like I give Shakur the good shot. And this is probably one of the most must-see fights of the year. It's a 50-50 fight. Either way you look at it, a title unification. One of you guys is going to end up the pound for pound list. And either way, I think if it's a respectable fight with both of you guys giving your best, you both walk away winning, even if someone does catch the L on their record.
Yeah, I believe so. And I believe this is a fight very important for boxing as well, because, at least in my opinion, in my case, there were a lot of people, Shakur will mention it a lot, that I was scared of him, that were ducking him. And that was never the case. But he likes the social media. And the worst thing about that I felt was that people started believing that that we were scared of. We both have the same promotional company, so it was very easy to make as far as, whatever the Bob father wants, whatever Bob Aaron wants is what's going to happen. So the fight was finally made. I think that's what boxing needs, good fights like that, as far as the best fighting the best. And yeah, I think this is it. Whoever wins this fight becomes the best at 130 pounds.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Shakur is definitely doing his on his end to sell the fight. He loves to talk that trash. It's fascinating because he was, he's been selling it as Oscar's ducking, and then in the end, it ended up you signed the contract first, and so it's, well, what do you say now?
And we pushed that fight. We definitely pushed that fight. They were trying to offer me fight Maquero Navarrete, and that was official. That was the main fight which they wanted. And I remember calling my manager. I said, I don't want that fight. I can't take that fight because Vaquero Navarrete he's a great fighter. He's a warrior, and I think the fans will enjoy that fight, but not right now. Because if I were to take that fight, people would start believing him more and think that I'm ducking Shakur. So I said, I don't care how it's going to happen. Please make that fight happen because we need the Shakur fight. If we fight Navarrete, and let's say we win or lose. If we win, nobody's going to give me the credit that we deserve. And if we lose, well, you lost to him. That's what people would think. But with the Shakur Stevenson fight, the price is bigger because Shakur's been selling it very well. He's been telling the people that we're scared of him. And as soon as they give the first offer, we signed right away. We said, let's make this fight happen right away because it got pretty annoying after a while hearing and seeing. And I've never been the one as far as social media comebacks, and I've never been the one who tries to talk trash on social media. I can't do it. It just doesn't come out naturally. So I was like, I'll just let my fist do a talking the day that we end up fighting.
And that's definitely something we appreciate. It's an interesting thing to see the difference. I think it's a cultural thing. Because I know most Mexican fighters, they're not gonna waste the words online with it. They're just gonna come into the ring and let the hands do the talking. And I could definitely appreciate, the side over here where people are saying what they say on social media. It gives me something to talk about as a content creator. But when push comes to shove, it's just you and him in that ring.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he has his people around him. He has like Terrence Crawford. They say, oh, Oscar Valdez has Canelo on his side. He has this and that. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be me and him inside the ring. It doesn't matter who we have, even in our corners. At the end of the day, he's in the ring, I'm in the ring. And whoever wants it more, whoever's willing to go that extra is going to win that fight.
All right, Oscar, I got a question. It's a spicy question. It's more a mental exercise, a drill, so to speak.
Yeah.
You got to be ready for anything in this fight game. So say a hypothetical situation. You're at a press conference. It's a week out from the fight. You got Shakur Stevenson sitting across the table from you. You got the press all in front of you. What do you do when Shakur Stevenson throws the cheater accusation out there in the middle of the press conference? How does Oscar react to that?
I'll just laugh. At it because, like I said, I'm training also physically, but also mentally. I'm expecting those type of things. I'm expecting him to trash talk and try to get in my head. But it's gonna go through one ear and come out the other. And also I got a couple of things under my sleeve that I could say as well about him. But keep it classy always, as long as there's always that respect. And we respect outside the ring. Inside the ring, we don't have to respect ourselves because that's the fight we want. But outside the ring, you respect me, I respect you back.
Fair enough, Mr. Valdez. Fair enough. All right, now to get some more broad general questions. This is just for the fan fodder. Since you've joined with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, what are the most important qualities you've picked up from Canelo Alvarez, who many consider to be the pound for pound greatest right now in the game? What have you learned from Canelo since joining with the team?
Well, being in that gym, I've learned a lot from a lot of fighters. And I always say, from Andy Ruiz, I will pick his power. From this fighter, I will pick his speed. From this other fighter, I will take maybe his footwork. If there's something I can pick from Canelo that I admire about him, is his mentality. His mentality inside there as a champion. It doesn't matter what position he's at in fights. It doesn't matter what position he's in a sparring session. He's always in control of fights. He has this way of expressing him. He breaks all the written rules that I personally have. Like not thinking about a fight when you have a fight in front of you. Canelo does all that. He says, I'm gonna beat you. Then after I beat you, I'm gonna beat you, and then I'm gonna go for Golovkin. Then I'm gonna go for this guy. And that's Canelo's mentality, the way he thinks like a straight champion. And I'm not talking about Canelo, the 20-something-year-old who fought Floyd. I'm talking about Canelo this age where he's just a different animal in his game plan and his mindset. He's very disciplined. Obviously, he is hard. He's a fast fighter, but the most important thing for me from him that I would pick is his mentality, his ring IQ, is the way how he sees things inside the ring.
Awesome. Awesome. As a young student of the game, when you were coming up watching boxing, who were your top 3 to 5 favorite fighters to watch when you were growing up? Who inspired Oscar Valdez?
Growing up, watching them, like I said, Morales, that's 2 right there. And Juan Manuel Marquez, Oscar De La Hoya, without a doubt. He's got to be maybe one of the tops, number 1. You know, we forget that Oscar De La Hoya is not just. I feel we look at him as a promotion, like a promoter, and we forget about the great athlete that he was and the great boxer that he was. Oscar De La Hoya, without a doubt, one of the best. And another, like Jose Luis Castillo, just
nice.
being a sonorense and me being close to him as a kid and seeing him how when he fought Floyd and when he fought, you know, Chico Corrales, and then from there, you know, just seeing his career was something beautiful to see, and just fighters I just admired watching. And I can mention a lot of more fighters like Orlando City Salido and even Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd Mayweather is definitely the best out there. You know, whether a lot of people like it or not. You know, Floyd. I like more Pretty Boy Floyd instead of Money Floyd. Pretty Boy Floyd was for me like that's the one I wanted to see.
I've always given Floyd Mayweather his credit. Love him or hate him for his personality, the man was perfection in the ring. And then Oscar De La Hoya, I am constantly defending Oscar De La Hoya in the comment sections because as a fighter, Oscar fought everyone, unafraid, whether it be Bernard Hopkins, Felix Trinidad, Ferros, like he didn't care. He fought everybody. Oscar was a warrior, a gold medal Olympian, and was arguably the biggest pay-per-view star of his generation.
And me talking to Top Rank, to Brad Goodman and Todd DeBoff and Bob Arum, they tell me the story of Oscar De La Hoya when they would sit down and they said, all right, and he never ducked nobody, never questioned nothing. So they would ask him, we got this fighter and we got this fighter and we got this fighter. Who would you rather fight? And Oscar De La Hoya would look at them with a straight face and said, who pays more? Because he was never afraid of fighting nobody. He will fight everybody. So De La Hoya, I feel people should give him more credit than what he gets right now. I think as a person and also as a fighter.
Definitely. Oh, did we lose connection there?